Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the video. So about 2/3 or 65% of amateur golfers lose posture in their swing. In fact, the majority actually set up in bad posture. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. However, your inability to control your pelvis, your inability to tilt, rotate, and side bend your pelvis is one of the leading causes as to why you lose posture in your golf swing. So today I'm going to touch on each of those: pelvic tilt, pelvic rotation, and pelvic side bend. And I'm going to show you stretches and exercises for each one of them to help you maintain posture in your swing and therefore lead to better swing consistency. Before we get going, if you're new to this channel, if this is the first time you're checking out a video at Ulaunch Golf Fitness, please hit that subscribe button. It really does make a huge difference. And if you find this information useful, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's start with pelvic tilt. All right, now first I want to show you how pelvic tilt actually shows up in your golf swing, or how it's supposed to show up in your golf swing. So this is Justin Thomas, and at setup, your pelvis should be forward tilted or anteriorly tilted between 20 and 25 degrees. Now, as you get to the top of your swing, you become a little less anteriorly tilted, and you're at about 18 to 22 degrees. But from the top to impact is where your pelvis needs to tilt the most. Now, as you transition in your downswing, your pelvis should be posteriorly tilting, and at impact, you should be slightly more than 0 degrees, about 0 to 4 degrees, so basically neutral at impact. Now, if you're unable to tilt your pelvis, you're physically unable to do that movement, what most commonly happens is you early extend in your golf swing. And this happens to, again, about 65% of amateur golfers. So the first thing that everybody needs to do is to take the pelvic tilt test to find out whether or not you can actually pelvic tilt. I've left that link down in the description. I've got a video over it. It's a real short video, very simple assessment. You can actually do it wherever you are. It literally takes about 2 seconds to do the assessment. But I don't want to go through that now. I want to get straight into the exercises. But that's the first step, is understanding what your physical limitations are so that then I can get you some exercises to help. Okay, so let's get started on some pelvic tilt exercises. And this first exercise is knee to chest press. So lying flat on your back with your legs extended straight in front of you, bring your right leg up to a tabletop position or a flex position, and I want you to take your hands to the top of your thigh as if you're putting them on your lap. As you exhale, press equally from your hands into your thigh and your thigh into your hands. And this will fire up your psoas along with your core. You want to do this for 3 to 5 deep breaths to start. Now that we've engaged that psoas muscle, now we want to stretch it out. So this is the side lying psoas stretch. So lying on your side with your bottom leg bent, extend your bottom arm as a pillow or prop yourself up on your forearm as you would in a side plank, which we'll get to in a second. Bend the top leg and reach your top foot with your top arm. Then draw your heel in towards your glutes, slightly tucking your pelvis into a neutral position. And you want to hold this for 5 to 10 deep breaths. Okay, then the pelvic tilt test itself can be an exercise, but to make it a little bit easier, we can do this lying down. So lying on your back with your knees elevated, all you're going to do is you're going to perform the same movement as the pelvic tilt test. Anteriorly tilting, posteriorly tilting, anterior, posterior. So when you posteriorly tilt, you should press your abs down into the ground, basically, so that your lower back is touching the ground. To progress this a step, then we can take it to a quadruped position. Same thing, knees under the hips, hands under the shoulders, and from this position, we're just trying to tilt the pelvis. Okay, so it looks like a cat-camel, but we're only doing the pelvis. We're not working all the way up through our thoracic spine. So you want to keep the thoracic spine still through this movement. Then to progress it a step further, then we'd go to half kneeling or tall kneeling. And in this point, in this instance, I'm showing you tall kneeling. And we're going to do the same thing, arms across the chest And again, here now we're just trying to do that pelvic tilt. Now, once you've progressed to this step and you've been able to, you're able to master it, then you can do it in the standing position like the pelvic tilt test is. Now, once you become comfortable with the pelvic tilt, maybe there's still some shaking and baking, that's when we need to strengthen this, all right? So what I'm gonna show you here is some leg drops. And again, we're gonna start on our back, knees elevated, and we're just going to drop one leg at a time. Again, your lower back should remain touching the ground throughout this exercise. Once you can do the single leg drops, then we'll do it from a straight leg position. So both legs straight up in the air, drop one leg at a time. You only want to drop your leg as far as your pelvis will allow. So basically, once your lower back starts coming off the ground, you've gone too far. That's your limit. And then once you can do single leg, then it's time to progress to double leg. 8 to 10 reps on each side, 2 to 3 sets, really just depends upon what else you're doing that day in your program. All right, so that's pelvic tilt. So if it's an issue for you, give those exercises a shot, see how well they work for you. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. But now let's get to pelvic rotation. And let me show you how this shows up in your swing, or again, how it should show up in your swing. All right, so this is Brooks Koepka at setup. And at setup, your hips should be square, or at 0 degrees of rotation. And as you rotate in your backswing, you should be able to rotate approximately 40 to 45 degrees at the top of your swing. Now, as you start your downswing to impact, your pelvis needs to rotate about 80 to 90 degrees from the top of your backswing, so that it's at about 40 degrees of rotation at impact. So if you think about your backswing, that's going to be negative rotation. And as you come into impact, it's going to be positive rotation. So you're negatively rotating in your backswing to 40, 45 degrees. And then at impact, your hips should be positively rotated 40 degrees. Again, I have a video that runs you through how to perform a pelvic rotation assessment. Please do that as soon as this video is over to assess whether or not pelvic rotation is an issue with you. But for now, let me jump into a few stretches and exercises that can help with your pelvic rotation. First, for pelvic rotation exercises, again, like we did with the psoas, we want to release the adductors for rotation. So with this, you're lying on your back. I'm using a yoga block. You can use a soccer ball, basketball, anything that you can squeeze between your legs. And you're just going to slowly squeeze and increase the intensity. Again, this is about 5 to 10 seconds. And 3 to 5 reps for this is sufficient. This next exercise is a pelvic clock exercise, and this is the 3 to 9. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your feet up against the wall, knees slightly bent, and you're just going to focus on rotating your pelvis from the 3 to the 9 on the clock. 3 to 9, back and forth. Your knees will move slightly, but you want to try and just focus on rotating your pelvis in this exercise. Again, 10 reps a side, 2 to 3 sets is sufficient. This last exercise I call the wall glute raise. So lying against the wall, you're about 6 inches away from the wall. Right leg in this instance is straight, left leg is bent with the knee pressed up against the wall. And what I'm doing here is I'm pressing my knee into the wall, which is providing that glute raise just on my left side. I hold for a 2-second count and back down. Again, 10 reps on each side, 2 to 3 sets, just depending upon what else you're doing in your program that day. But a great way to work on some hip rotation unilaterally. And the third pelvic movement that you need to master is the pelvic side bend or pelvic lateral tilt. So here is Lexi Thompson's swing. And at setup, you want your pelvis to be level, although a slight lead hip raise of a couple degrees, no more than about 4 degrees, is acceptable. Now, as you rotate into your backswing, your trail hip should tilt higher by about 8 to 10 degrees. Then as you transition into your downswing, then it should reverse. And by the time you get to impact, your lead hip should be tilted higher by about 8 to 10 degrees. Now, 10 degrees isn't a lot, but if you struggle to laterally tilt your pelvis, one of the more common swing faults is a loss of posture, but a flat shoulder plane. Now, a simple test and actually an exercise for this is elevated leg drops. So for this test, you just need a little step, but you're gonna stand on it with one leg, and that leg is going to remain straight the entire time. But you're just gonna drop your opposite leg or your leg hanging off the step, just using your hips. So it's just a hip tilt, dropping that leg. The other knee has to remain straight though. It's also a great exercise to work on your pelvic lateral tilt. So give that one a shot, and let me show you a few other exercises that will help with your lateral pelvic tilt. This first stretch is a QL stretch. So this is the seated reach over. So in a seated position, all you're going to do is reach laterally over to the side as far as you can. Try and maintain contact with your glutes on the ground. If this is easy, you can go into what I call a shin box position, where 90 degrees in front of you and the other leg is behind you. Same thing, just make sure that you try and maintain contact with your glute on the ground. So with lateral pelvic tilt, we want to focus on strengthening the glutes and the adductors. So this first movement is lying face down, arms extended in front of you, legs straight back, and you're going to go opposite arm, opposite leg. And you're going to reach out to the side as far as you can, particularly with the leg. The arm could obviously go all the way down to your side, but as far as your leg goes out, that's how far your arm should go out on the opposite side. Hold for a couple of seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, back to the middle, and switch sides. This exercise is a clamshell. This is for your glute med. So lying on your side, get your pelvis into a neutral position, legs at about 90 degrees, and you're just simply raising up that top leg and activating that glute. Now, I'm using a band here. If you don't have bands, don't worry about it, but bands can add a little bit more resistance. Again, 8 to 10 reps, flip over and do the other side. This last activation exercise is the hip adductor exercise. So lying on your side, I'm using my hand as a support, as a pillow. My left leg is straight back, my right leg is bent and over the side, and all I'm doing is slowly raising up that left leg as far as I can and back down. Holding for a 2 count at the top, we're just working that adductor. 8 to 10 reps, flip over and do the other side. And for the strengthening portion, this is a side plank reach. So now I'm starting on the ground basically, so I've got that underneath leg supporting on the ground, and I'm doing it single leg because I really want to stress working on that adductor. So again, get your pelvis in a neutral position, nice support underneath that shoulder, and you're just bridging up on that leg and then reaching over as far as you can over the top. 8 to 10 reps, switch over and do the other side. If that's too easy, then you can do it from a straight arm position. So you're a little bit more elevated. Again, I'm working single leg here because I really want to work that adductor. Bridging up, contracting that glute, and reaching over the top as far as you can. All right, so a lot of information there to digest, but give those exercises a shot. More importantly, go check out those videos. Check out the pelvic tilt assessment and the pelvic rotation assessment. And then I showed you the pelvic lateral tilt assessment. So make sure that you understand what your physical limitations are. That'll make it much easier for me and for you to work on some of your weaknesses. Also, all those assessments are part of a bigger Golf Fitness movement screen. I've also left that down in the description. It's completely free video tutorial. I run you through 15 different assessments, right? So we talked about pelvic tilt, pelvic rotation. There's 13 other ones that determine how well you move and how it correlates with your golf swing. So that's completely free, down in the description. Download it, run yourself through it, send me back your results, and I send you exercises for what your limitations are or what your weaknesses are. Otherwise, I appreciate you checking out the video. Please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next Monday for a new golf fitness video. Take it easy.